Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Vault Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and welcome to segment number 200 on the semester. Now, a lot of people are always wondering, what would segment number 200 entail? But I think more than anything, when you count up all the segments that I've done this semester, and you kind of separate them based on who's been discussed the most, the team that has been discussed the most is the Cleveland Cavaliers, so it's only fitting that segment number 200 includes them, and we find ourselves right in the midst of the NBA playoffs, and it's one of those things where now that all the first-round matchups are over, we kind of look at the way that the second-round matchups are shaping up for the Eastern Conference, and I think it's clearer now more than ever that Cleveland is just substantially better than everyone else. And we saw Cleveland's regular season go out, and it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but now that it's playoff time, teams really show who they are, and the teams who really are the best separate and elevate themselves through star power and just through fluid playing of the game. And I think we look at the way the Eastern Conference matches went. 2 series went 7 games, 1 went 6, and one of them was a sweep. The sweep, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think you look at that Heat-Hornets series, very competitive, sloppy basketball. I mean, just not good basketball. If I picked the Hornets to win that series. I was wrong on that one. But if Chris Bosh is playing in that series, it's a no-brainer. You go with the Miami Heat. But both of those teams defensively atrocious at moments. I mean, the Miami Heat won that series. Once it got to Game 7, you knew they were going to win that one. Just a more veteran ball club with experience. A lot of guys on that roster had been in big games like that before. Dwayne Wade lives and breathes for big moments like that. Charlotte's still a very young team, but they're coming along very nicely in their development. Kemba Walker, I think, 2 of the games he played in that series were 2 of the best that he's ever played during his NBA career, but still, the Miami Heat, their defense was atrocious at times. They're going to go on and, of course, play the winner of the Raptors-Pacers series, the winner of that series, which also went 7 games, the Toronto Raptors. But even in that game last night, Indiana almost comes back and wins it. That was a very, very brutal series to watch. Very competitive, again, but I just think you see it, and it's very easy to see why Cleveland is just far and alone better than everyone else. It's the path of least resistance back to the finals. Last season, we look at it. LeBron James has had some tough times getting to the finals during his NBA career. Largely, it was tied to the fact that his roster, his first go-around to Cleveland, was just not good enough, and he had to do everything by himself. But last season was the easiest path he's ever had to the finals. Even his Heat days were always difficult to get to the finals. The Indiana Pacers always gave the Heat a lot of problems, but this last season was his easiest path ever, and that was without Kyrie Irving largely, and that was without Kevin Love for the entire postseason, with the exception of one game against the Celtics, which he didn't even finish the whole game. The fact that was his easiest path ever, and he was missing his other 2-star counterparts, tells you everything about the state of the Eastern Conference. Cleveland is just far and above everyone else, and it comes down to superstars. I think you look at Atlanta, who Miami, who the Cavs are slated to play tonight and will play in this series. They're the only team that gives them any what of a challenge, and even then, not so much. It went 6 games against the Celtics, and the Celtics largely are a team that is elevated exponentially by tremendous coaching. When you compare the players between the Hawks and the Celtics have an advantage almost in every single position, but the Celtics play up to their talent level because of their tremendous coaching. Brad Stevens is one of the best in the business, but now that we look at it, Atlanta against Cleveland, it's the same story as it was last year. Now Cleveland has Kevin Love, and they have Kyrie Irving. Last season, Kyrie sat out the entire series, and then the Hawks got swept. And remember, Atlanta was the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference last season. That right there, just, again, it goes to show you. And then we look at the way that Toronto and Miami are going to play against each other. I think that series really doesn't matter at all. Both teams really lack basic identities on the defensive end. Miami has the more experience, but without Chris Bosh, they show moments where they are just not good. And Goran Dragic, he played a tremendous Game 7, but largely he has not had a good year. He has not had a good postseason so far. Without the point guard really leading things for the Miami Heat and setting the tone defensively, I think that they're no threat as well. It really is simple to look at all the pieces of the puzzle, look at all the identifiable weaknesses of these teams, and just see why Cleveland is far and alone better than everyone else. Now, that's not guaranteeing a title one bit, and it's certainly the Western Conference is a different breed altogether, mainly in terms of the top, not so much in terms of the bottom. But in terms of the top, that is a substantial difficult task, but I think more than anything it helps Cleveland that their path back to the finals will not be strenuous like it was last season. Atlanta, if anything, I think this season they haven't been as good this year as they were last year, and I think Cleveland, the only thing that concerns you, and I think Tyronn Lue has expressed that concern, is the amount of layoff that they've had. They've been out quite some time. They've had a lot of time, but For LeBron, I think that's more important than anything. And I think in the first series that they swept Detroit, LeBron, for the first time in his career, let another player be the man in a series. He's never deferred to another player when it's come to the postseason. But I think he kind of understands with his age now, with the way that that team has shaped out, that Kyrie Irving has to be the driving force for the Cavaliers this season. Kevin Love is going to get his points here and there, and LeBron is, of course, going to be one of the ones orchestrating the show. But the Cavs are going to live and die by what Kyrie Irving can give them because he sets the tone on offense and he sets the tone on defense, and he is the biggest playmaker for that team outside of himself. So Kyrie is the key cog, the key to winning for the Cavaliers, and I think it tremendously helps them that the path of resistance through the East is just so weak. I mean, it is. You sound like you're all in on Cleveland, but it's just simple watching these games. You watch these series. I mean, Atlanta, you watch that series, you see huge major weaknesses that Cleveland will exploit. You watch the Charlotte and Miami series, defensive liabilities all over the place, and you watch Indiana and Toronto. I still don't think Toronto has their identity figured out. That was a really tough series to figure out. They struggle closing out games. All the proof is in watching the games. If you watch the games, you see who is truly separated from everyone else, and that's kind of always been the motto on the Sports Vault is watch the games and you figure things out for yourself. And I think that's always kind of why it's fitting for number 200 for this segment to kind of take fruition, is because it really just has come down to watching the games. And you'd be surprised by how many people don't watch and still think that they know. But you need to watch, because when you watch with your eyes tell you everything that you need to know. I've watched all these games in the Eastern Conference Finals throughout the playoff run, and you can clearly see the weaknesses that exist on the other teams that just don't exist on the Cavaliers. And I think more than anything, that's why you see them get back easily to the finals. But until that happens, Jersey, Joe Archino here with segment number 200 on the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino. And I'll see everybody next time.